Is the first Harry Potter movie overrated? Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is a 2001 fantasy film starring Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson. A couple quick things to mention here. The first introduction to Harry Potter was through the books. The world building that this movie starts is incredible. The Hogwarts castle feels like it was brought to life from the books perfectly. All the little details and references towards the book. The casting in this film is great. Obviously amazing portrayals such as Snape and Malfoy. One of my favorite parts of the first book was actually the connection between Hagrid and Harry, and I like that the movie took its time properly to show it. For 2001, the special effects could be a lot worse. But something I wanted to mention about the movie was just the amount of reaction shots. Some situation will go down and then you'll get to see Harry's reaction for 3 seconds, then Ron's reaction, then Hermione's reactions, and I felt it creates a bit of a pacing issue. I've been told that this franchise changes directors and that the movies have a completely different tone later on. Overall, my final rating for this movie is a 6.7 out of 10, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next movies in the Harry Potter franchise. Is this Harry Potter movie liked by critics? Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is a 2002 fantasy movie starring Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson. I watched this sequel after reading the first 2 books and watching the first movie, trying to experience this franchise in some sort of order, and I didn't find myself immersed in the Chamber of Secrets story as much. That being said, there still are some very iconic parts, like the flying car or the big battle at the end. I was hoping going into this one that there would be a bit more of a darker tone, and I've seen some people saying that there is, but this movie felt very similar to the first, which makes sense because it was made only a year later by the same director, and I know later on in the series that the movies go for a more realistic approach. While not my favorite, I still found myself entertained throughout, and my final score for this one is a 6 out of 10. What did you think of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets? Is The Prisoner of Azkaban the best Harry Potter movie? Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is a 2004 adventure fantasy starring Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint. Going from the first 2 films to this one is quite the jump. Immediately, the cinematography is impressive. I love that in between important scenes, there's shots of the castle and just the grounds at Hogwarts. This movie just introduces this dark grittiness that apparently stays around for the rest of the movies. And immediately, it has me more immersed in the story and its characters. So many elements are brought alive through the book exactly how I would have imagined them. And I read the book about a month before watching this one, so it was still fresh in my mind. And other than a few interesting acting choices, I'm curious to see through the later movies if this one will remain my favorite. Rotten Tomatoes gives this movie an impressive critic score of 90%, and I'm happy to say that my opinions on the movie match a lot of the critics. My final rating for The Prisoner of Azkaban is an 8.2 out of 10. A great step up in visual and narrative storytelling. What did you think of this movie? Is Harry Potter the Goblet of Fire overrated? Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is a 2005 adventure fantasy film starring Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint. For a 2-hour and 37-minute movie, the pacing in this one feels extremely fast. Now, of course, typically in movie adaptations, it moves quicker than the book, but I was just surprised to see how many things were skipped, especially considering the runtime. Other than that, though, the cinematography was top-notch, and the acting was solid. It keeps getting better film to film. I find Dumbledore might be a little bit too aggressive in this movie at times, but I also understand why they went with that tone, because he's a headmaster that has to run around this massive castle trying to make sure everything's running smoothly. I understand why he gets a bit frustrated. But as I mentioned, I think the most impressive part of the movie is the visual effects. For 2005, it's amazing. I have yet to watch the next film, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it advances further. My final rating for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is a 7.3 out of 10. Let me know what you thought of this movie.